he pressed record, and I will lament the fact that I have to turn Knocked Loose down. Wish that I could just listen to Knocked Loose with the viewers for like 20 minutes uninterrupted on the way to the gym. That's the vibe. That's big vibes. Why is Knocked Loose so good? Why can they do no wrong? I feel like Knocked Loose is similar to Power Trip in a way that like it just has this insane cross-genre appeal while being pretty uncompromising. You know what I mean? Like, you go to a Power Trip show, RIP, Riley Gale, but you go to a Power Trip show and it's like all the hardcore kids, all the metal kids, just like, I don't know, Fox newscasters, like, you know what I mean? And yeah, Knocked Loose seems to be doing the same thing. And it's just disgustingly heavy. Right? It's not like it's like a band like Turnstile. You can see how they've reached such mass appeal. And I don't necessarily think they compromise, but it's not, you know, it's maybe not quite as heavy. It doesn't have quite as much of a rough edge as it has in the past. Yeah, I don't know. Knocked Loose is very sick. I wonder sometimes, and it kind of is interesting to me, what people listen to when they lift. And maybe even like different moods or genres of music for different lifts. Like, I know for me, generally speaking, if I'm squatting, I want something a little more boppy, a little more vibey, like a little more maybe metalcore kind of stuff. I'm still a sucker for like old Veil of Maya, Born of Osiris. I'm trying to think of some other ones, but yeah, that kind of stuff, that kind of vibe. Structures, maybe? I can't remember. There were a lot of those like it bands, Structures, Horizons. Obviously Counterparts, again, also very good squat music. And then I feel like when I get to benching, a lot of times that's where I like to listen to more hip hop. More like Freddie Gibbs, Big X the Plug, that kind of stuff. A little Run the Jewels. What else? Vince Staples, also very, very good. And then when I get to deadlift, it's like, yeah, just unadulterated, like black out the skies, insane, like nihilistic metal. What the hell, bro? This guy's got a full lane of people following him, just coming head on into me here. They did not get the brief. Yeesh. That was weird. Thought we were gonna get kissed by a FedEx truck there for a second. Yeah, Sermon of Flames, Abduction. There's a lot of really good bands in that genre that start with A. I can't think of a number of them right now, but anyways. I used to have a client who I coached him at meets a couple times, and he would sit there and like watch anime like between lifts. And I think it was like those anime compilations of like, I don't even know. Maybe it's anime songs, maybe it's like hard rock songs and like anime fight scenes and stuff. And he just like watched those on repeat on YouTube between attempts. And I know that's not uncommon. And I like anime as much as the next guy, you know, but I don't know if that's what I'm reaching for in the moment there. I don't know if it gets me that like deeply hyped. Dylan likes to put on episode 968 of One Piece. Watch some, I don't know, there are pirates in that show? Yeah, watch some like pirate shit happen or something. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of curious and wonder about what other people listen to, because sometimes people tell me and show me what they listen to, and I'm like, oh damn, really? Like that's mellow, or like, holy shit, that's way more aggressive than I would have thought. But it's an interesting phenomenon, what gets people hyped, and whether or not people want to be hyped, right? Whether or not people think they need to be hyped, and maybe they don't, because I've definitely known a few of those type as well. People who think that they need to get super hyped up to lift well, but then they get hyped up and it's like, oh wow, you just like forgot how to lift there for a sec, hey? And I have been that person. There's I don't know if there's a video of it anymore, but there was, I think, it was in a meet. My third deadlift attempt at Power Surge, one of my first meets in Alberta, my first APU meet back in like 2014. And I got so goddamn fired up. And I went out for my third deadlift and just like didn't bother pulling into position. I basically just grabbed the bar and yanked on it. And I remember distinctly, like the crowd had kind of gone quiet for a second. It was like, I don't know, moderately heavy deadlift for 2014. And I like grabbed the bar, yanked, and let out this little like, because I just was like not braced at all, like not in position at all. And was just like, oh, okay, maybe I need to rethink getting like hyped out of my face, like screaming and, you know. So that's why a lot of the times you see me in meet, I might just be like dead ass calm. I might just, somebody posted on one of the videos we did that, and this was maybe one of my favorite compliments ever, was that Bryce just looks like a robot that was put on earth to lift weights when he lifts. Because I just had, you know, it was one of those meets where I was just like super in the zone, and my zone that day was just very like deadpan, very focused, very, you know, not emotional, just there to execute. And I think usually that's a pretty good headspace for me. Sometimes I like to get a little bit hyped up, but I often find myself getting more hyped up in training than I do at meets. And I don't know why that is. I think it's just, I think, so if I think about it for a second, I can figure out, but I think the reason for that is because in training, you don't have all those extra factors. You don't have all the skin in the game, you know what I mean? Like training in a lot of ways doesn't matter as much as the meet matter in a really abstract way. Like if you know, poorly execute a set in training, obviously it's not ideal. Obviously that's not what we're looking for. But at the end of the day, you know, you're probably still getting decent training stimulus in, and it's gonna be okay. But if you miss time or poorly execute something in a meet, like that could be it. And I don't mean you'll die. I just mean like you might not make the lift. So I think it's easier to get in that headspace of like being super dialed on meet day, obviously, than it is in training. So I think I use that more in training. I lean on that a little more in training to help get myself closer to that level where I'll be in meets. And there's actually a bit of a conversation on our last blog of people talking about using ammonia and whether or not they should. I couldn't tell if this person was trolling or not, because they said that they use ammonia and then their nose bleeds. Should they stop? And I was like, yeah, definitely. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound good. Like you probably have some sinus issues or something. Like just sort that shit out. Ammonia ain't worth it. But then the person below commented and was like, you should never use ammonia in training. Like there's no reason to ever have to go there. Which I think, again, isn't completely invalid. But I think, yeah, it's just too general of a statement to be like, oh, you should never go there in training. It's like, I disagree with that. But the whole hype arousal thing is, yeah, like I said, pretty interesting. I think a lot of people use hype. Again, I got this somewhere. I don't know where. Credit to, I don't know, whoever I heard it from. But they were talking about people using arousal to like basically fill the void of confidence, right? So using hype as a way to mask the fact that they weren't confident that they were going to make the lift. And those two levels of things, you know, being somewhat having somewhat of an inverse relationship. Like the more confident you were going into a lift, and I think this person was talking about training context, but the more confident you were going in, the less hype you would need, the less hype you would want, and the less confident you were, the more hype you would need. Which, yeah, I don't know, might even get into like personality types too, and people who, you know, tend to be really outwardly confident because they have insecurities and, you know, things like that. And I'm not gonna like psychoanalyze people, but it's kind of cool, kind of interesting to think about. I remember my coffee today, so that was good. But anyways, Knocked Loose is very good. Probably gonna listen to it through my whole session today. So we'll go lift now.
What's your lift?
What's my lift? What's my lift? I'm gonna lift against chains on the squat and deadlift. I'm gonna do some tempo benching. Do a bunch of tricep work and some rows. So it'll be a very different kind of audio experience today with all the chains, because that shit is loud. So enjoy.
feet. Counterpaw. Underpaw. Oh, you're already ahead of me, hey? I mean, running's a lot of impact too.
Genuinely, since I started lifting more regularly, my knees feel better. So, how's that?
Well, my knees hurt just because I cut up.
Well, another good session in Das Books. Yeah, just about killed myself with the chains there. Something to watch out for, I guess, if you're doing chain work in a combo rack. If you push the bar into the rack and the rack lifts up, make sure the chains don't swing underneath and get trapped under the rack. Because then when you go to walk out, it just stops going. It just doesn't, you just can't walk it out. That's it, you're done. Luckily, you know, it was, I measured about 15 kilos of chain per side, so about 30 kilos total at the top. So it was only about 300 at the top. And like 270-ish at the bottom. So it wasn't crazy heavy for that single, but certainly did feel weird and bad trying to get my feet set and then realizing that the bar just wasn't going to go anywhere. So we made it work. Tempo bench was pretty good overall. Shoulders not 100%. After benching on my day one, it got a little bit upset again, but I've found that I'm missing a lot of overhead range of motion on that shoulder. So sometimes just like grabbing onto something up high and like stretching it, just like pushing into the point where I can get my arm over my head, tends to give me like a pretty good amount of relief. It feels terrible at the moment, like at the time I'm doing it, but then afterwards I tend to have some prolonged relief in the joint. So maybe there's something to that. So I was trying to stretch it out a little bit today, and the tempo bench didn't feel bad. It was supposed to be 2 out of 10, which I think I was probably more of a 9.5, but with the 6 count eccentric, it just really sneaks up on you. So yeah, I've had tempo bench in the block for quite a bit now. It's second or third block in a row I've been doing that real long eccentric, and yeah, hopefully it pays off. Bench felt, like I said, pretty okay. Swapped the attachments on the push downs, moved over to the rope. Feels novel. I don't know, it's not crazy different. but the program said, brother, you need to slam your triceps today. So we did. That's what we did. Pulls felt pretty good. I'm really glad to have a second single, because then I get that little bit extra hook grip practice, which is nice, because hook grip has not been feeling as solid as I would want it to. It's not really going anywhere, but it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? I don't know. Gotta get back on the super solid hook grip capability. But having a couple singles a week that I can hook that are, again, with maybe 25 kilos of chains on the deadlift, because there's still a little bit on the floor when I lock out. That means top single is 325 still, so holding on to some weight. It'll help. But also just really aimed to kind of continue not overdoing it today. I could have gone in there and gone a lot harder, for sure. I could have pushed those singles a decent chunk more, probably 10 to 20 kilos more each, and still been like arguably, questionably on RPE. But again, that's the kind of shit that really set me back last block, I think. So I've also noticed that for this block, I'm going to have 3 of my lower body days, all 3 of my lower body days, maybe even all 4, have pretty close to comp SBD, like our squat and deadlift exposures. So I have comp squat deadlift is one exposure, chain squat deadlift is another exposure, pause squat deadlift is another exposure, and I can't remember the last one, but yeah, it's gonna be a lot of pretty specific exposures, which means I really want to be able to get them all in. I really want to be able to do the like higher priority stuff and not have to take a week where I comp squat and deadlift, and then the rest of the week I'm doing stiff leg RDLs and leg press because my knee's blown up. And if I moderate and modulate the intensity properly, I should be able to do that. And my lifts tend to respond well to frequent exposures. So yeah, feeling pretty good, feeling pretty excited. I think nominations are pretty close to done. I really should check that. Probably check that out today and see where I'm sitting in the standings, because I'm really, really hoping I'm not in B flight. I'm gonna be big sad. Not gonna lie to you, I'll be big sad if I'm in B flight. Also, mad props to, I should know his name. I'm gonna do this thing again where I don't know a dude's name, but the 120, I think he was a French guy who, did he podium overall, or maybe got an individual lift medal? I don't know. He put up some crazy total from B flight. I think maybe it was came in 5th or something, but still, like, went from being nominated 12th or 13th. I can't even remember which worlds it was. Malta or last year, maybe. Malta or Lithuania. But coming from B flight to, like top 5. Lucas Wiseman, obviously. Also came in squat gold? Silver at worst. Might have been gold from B flight. So, yeah, it's not that you can't do cool shit from B flight, but like I was saying last time, I really want to take a little look-see at the podium and try to swing for it. That's the big goal, the big plan. I got to get back on eating more. I've been able to kind of maintain my body weight with what I've been eating, because towards the end of last block I wasn't getting as much training stimulus in, but I can already feel this block, even with less intensity to start, like I'm gonna need to up the calories, and I could do better than I do. I don't really track as much as I should. But I've also got a pretty good idea of like intuitively what I need to eat because I tracked meticulously for so long. So I'm pretty confident I can just, step it up, but I'm definitely going to have to. Definitely going to have to if I want to be recovering from these sessions and being able to go back in and hit more of the like primary days, which just feels so good. Feels so freaking good. Just jamming out, having a good time, listening to tunes, just kind of in my own world. I think it's always been one of the big things for me is that the training it's cathartic in a way, but it's also just a distraction. It's escapism, and I think escapism for me has always been really helpful, really productive way of like dealing with stress. That's why I've always, enjoyed reading fantasy books and playing super immersive, like very, very detailed and deep, like games with deep systems, video games with deep systems. That kind of thing has just always appealed to me because of the escapism. But lifting in its own sense, like, when you get the right songs, the right playlist going, things are feeling good, you're moving well, you're not in pain, which, we've talked about before. That's not something to take for granted. But it just is, it's such vibes to just kind of bop out, do some lifts, and especially when you're not like just destroying yourself for every set, you know what I mean? When you're at that point in the block where you're still kind of just moving through smoothly, maybe you're undershooting a little bit, you're just kind of getting acclimated to the workload. It's just good. It's just good. I just like it a lot. I love lift. I love lift. I think learning to love lift, and what I mean by that is enjoying the process, is the only way that anyone lasts in this sport. If you can't learn to love and enjoy the process of training and the menial work and the sets of 5 at 70% and the submaximal this, that, and the other thing, and the tricep pump at the end, like if you can't learn to love that stuff, like you're not gonna last. If all that appeals to you and feels good for you is like breaking records and beating people, you're gonna have a tough time. And I think a number of those people who maybe start off where that's their driving factor, right? Is being the best and beating the best. A number of those people are able to pivot when they run into hurdles. And I think, probably Taylor Atwood is a good example of that. I can't pretend to know what drove him at first, but he was beating the best, being the best, like top of the tippity top, with a number of his performances and stuff there. And then, I've followed a lot of his stuff over the last couple of years, and like injuries and setbacks, and, he's got a family now, and that's the kind of stuff that for me is like, hell yeah, lift. 10-year veterans of powerlifting will look at this and just say, hell yeah. But that shift in perspective, and again, I'm just, projecting here probably, but being able to make that pivot is what gives somebody longevity in the sport, right? Being able to be like, okay, well, I'm not having the results that I wish I was. I'm not breaking the records. I'm not winning all the meets. So, if that's the only thing that's driving me, like, I'm just going to be friggin' miserable all the time. And I think I went through that period too, where I had to, relearn to love it, and for different reasons, love the process of it and the work and the, boring sessions. It's one of the things people always ask, when we get in these large social situations and end up having to small talk with people. People are like, oh, so how are things? And, Selena and I, our sort of default response is like, we have a boring life. and we love that, you know? We just kind of do our thing. We generally don't have a whole lot of like drama or stress, and we just, you know, have our little routines and our day-to-day and our dog, and that's good for us, you know? So I think learning to enjoy that mundane experience in training, learning to really love the average session, even if it's, you know, it's meh, it's whatever. Like, cherish those, because at some point you're probably going to miss them, and you do anything to get them back when you do. So, all right. Bye for now.